She said she had a night shift at the hospital. Then I saw her dancing in a stranger's TikTok from a club. I checked her schedule. She wasn't even on shift. I never thought I'd be writing this post, but here I am at 3 a.m., still processing what happened. My hands are literally shaking as I type this. So my wife has been working these night shifts at the hospital for about 6 months now. She'd leave around 7 p.m., come home exhausted around 6 a.m., shower, and crash until noon. I felt bad for her, you know? Healthcare workers go through so much, especially with all the stress and overtime. I'd have dinner ready when she got home, make sure the house was quiet so she could sleep, even started doing all the grocery shopping and errands on weekends so she could rest. She seemed different lately, though, more energetic despite the supposed exhaustion. New clothes appearing in her closet, designer stuff that seemed way beyond what we could afford on our budget. When I asked about it, she said the hospital had given them all bonuses and she wanted to treat herself. Made sense, I guess. She'd also started being super protective of her phone, taking it everywhere, even to the bathroom. But I trusted her completely, so I never thought much of it. The weird thing was how she'd come home with these stories about patients and coworkers that seemed almost too dramatic to be real. Like soap opera level drama. But again, hospitals are intense places, right? I just listened and supported her. Then last Tuesday happened. I was lying in bed, couldn't sleep, so I decided to scroll through TikTok for a bit. You know how the algorithm works. It shows you the most random stuff sometimes. I'm watching these dance videos, some cooking content, the usual mindless stuff you watch when you can't sleep. Then this video pops up. It's clearly from some upscale club downtown. You can see the fancy lighting, the crowded dance floor, people dressed to the nines. The music is loud, everyone's having a great time. And there, right in the center of the frame, is my wife. Not just in the background, but front and center, dancing with this group of women I'd never seen before. She's wearing this stunning red dress that definitely wasn't in her closet when I last did laundry. Her hair is perfectly done, makeup flawless, and she's laughing and moving like she doesn't have a care in the world. I literally sat up so fast I almost dropped my phone. My heart started racing. I checked the timestamp on the video. It was posted 3 hours ago. I looked at the clock. It was 1:47 a.m. She was supposed to be at work, dealing with emergencies and saving lives. I watched the video again, and again, and again, each time hoping I was seeing things wrong, that it wasn't really her. But it was definitely her. The way she moved, her laugh, even that little thing she does with her hair when she's having fun. There was no mistaking it. I screenshot the video and then started checking the account that posted it. It was some random guy who'd apparently been at the same club. His bio said he was visiting from out of state. The video had already gotten a few thousand likes and comments about how fun the night looked. I spent the next hour going through his other videos, looking for more footage from that night. I found 2 more clips where she appeared in the background, clearly having the time of her life. In one, she's at the bar ordering drinks. In another, she's taking selfies with women I definitely don't recognize. I couldn't just lie there anymore. I got up and paced around the house, trying to figure out what to do. Part of me wanted to drive to the hospital right then and there to see if she was actually working, but another part of me was scared of what I might find or not find. I decided to check something else first. She always left her work schedule on the fridge, said it helped her keep track of her shifts. I went to the kitchen and looked at the magnetic calendar we kept there. According to what she'd written, she was supposed to be working Tuesday night through Wednesday morning, a 12-hour shift. But something was bothering me. I grabbed my laptop and did something I'd never done before. I looked up the hospital's employee directory online. I found the contact information for the department she claimed to work in and decided to call. I know it sounds crazy, but I had to know. When someone answered, I said I was trying to reach my wife about a family emergency. They put me on hold for what felt like forever. When they came back, they told me there was no one by her name on shift that night. In fact, they said there was no one by her name in their system at all. My stomach dropped. I asked them to double check, thinking maybe she went by a different name at work or something. But no, they were certain. No one with her name had ever worked at that hospital. I hung up and just sat there in the dark kitchen, staring at the schedule on the fridge. 6 months of lies. 6 months of me supporting what I thought was her demanding job, taking care of everything at home so she could focus on her career, being proud of her for working in healthcare. I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. I kept checking the clock, waiting for 6 a.m. when she usually came home. I had no idea what I was going to say or how I was going to handle this. Do you confront someone immediately? Do you wait and gather more evidence? I'd never been in this situation before. When I heard her car in the driveway at 6:15 a.m., my heart started pounding again. She came in looking perfectly put together, not like someone who'd just worked a 12-hour shift at a hospital. Her makeup was still flawless, her hair still styled. She smelled like expensive perfume, not like the antiseptic smell you'd expect from a hospital. She went through her usual routine, kissed me good morning, said the shift was exhausting, headed for the shower. I wanted to say something right then, but I chickened out. I needed time to process what I discovered and figure out how to approach this. Over the next few days, I became obsessed with finding out the truth. I started paying attention to details I'd never noticed before. The mileage on her car didn't match what it should be if she was just driving to and from the hospital. The hospital was only about 15 minutes from our house, but her car showed she'd been driving much farther. I also started noticing her social media behavior differently. She'd always been active on Instagram and TikTok, but lately, she'd been super secretive about what she was posting. She'd be on her phone constantly, laughing at things, but when I asked what was funny, she'd just say it was work stuff or friend drama. I decided to do some detective work. I created a fake Instagram account and started searching for her. It took me a while, but eventually, I found her account. Except it wasn't the account I knew about. This was a completely different profile with a different username. And it was like looking into a parallel universe. Update 1. I can't believe how much support this post has gotten. Thank you to everyone who commented. It really helps to know I'm not crazy for feeling like my world has been turned upside down. A lot of you asked for updates, so here's what's happened since I first posted. So I found her secret Instagram account, and guys, it was like discovering she'd been living an entirely different life. The account had over 50,000 followers. 50,000. The bio said she was part of some reality show parody group called The Real Housewives of Downtown. I'd never heard of it, but apparently, it was this whole thing where women pretended to be wealthy housewives and created dramatic content. Her feed was full of videos of her at expensive restaurants, shopping at high-end boutiques, attending parties at luxury hotels. She was always dressed in designer clothes, hair and makeup done professionally. The comments were insane. People calling her their favorite cast member, asking about her outfits, wanting to know where she got her jewelry. But here's the thing that really got me. She was good at it. Like, really good. Her content was funny, engaging, and clearly people loved watching her. She had this whole persona built up as this sophisticated, wealthy woman living this glamorous lifestyle. She'd post about her charity work and her business ventures and her girls' nights at exclusive clubs. I spent hours going through her posts, trying to piece together how long this had been going on. Based on her earliest posts, she'd been doing this for almost a year. A whole year of lying to me about where she was and what she was doing. The worst part was seeing how happy she looked in all these videos and photos. Happier than I'd seen her in our real life in a long time. She was confident, charismatic, funny. It was like watching a completely different person. I also figured out how she was affording all those expensive clothes and accessories. The group apparently had sponsorship deals with various brands. Companies would send them free stuff in exchange for promotional posts. She was also making money from brand partnerships and appearances at events. But I still didn't understand why she was lying to me about it. Why not just tell me she was doing this social media thing? Why make up an entire fake job? Why go through the trouble of pretending to be exhausted from hospital shifts when she was actually out having the time of her life? I decided I needed to confront her, but I wanted to do it right. I didn't want to just accuse her and start a fight. I wanted to understand what was really going on. So I planned it out. Last Friday, she told me she had another night shift. I waited until she left, then I got dressed and drove to the area where I knew she'd been filming content. I'd studied her recent posts enough to recognize some of the locations. I found her at this trendy rooftop bar downtown. She was with 3 other women, all dressed to the nines, clearly filming content for their social media. They had a whole setup, professional lighting, someone's boyfriend, or something acting as a cameraman. The works. I watched from across the street for about an hour. She was completely in her element, directing shots, coming up with funny bits, interacting with fans who recognized her. People were actually approaching their table asking for photos. She had legitimate fans. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just lying to me about where she was. She was lying to me about who she was. This wasn't just some side hobby or secret project. This was her real life. This was who she wanted to be. I didn't approach her that night. I just went home and waited for her to come back with another story about her exhausting hospital shift. When she did, acting tired and complaining about difficult patients, I felt this weird mix of sadness and anger that I'd never experienced before. The next morning, I decided to just be direct. I showed her the TikTok video where I first saw her dancing at the club. I'll never forget the look on her face. It was like watching someone realize they'd been caught in a lie they never thought they'd get caught in. She immediately started crying and apologizing, saying she could explain everything. But instead of explaining, she just kept apologizing and saying she never meant to hurt me. It was like she was more upset about getting caught than about the actual lying. Finally, she told me the truth. She said she'd started the social media thing as a joke with some friends she'd met at a networking event. It was supposed to be just for fun, a way to be creative and maybe make some extra money. But it had blown up way beyond what she'd expected. She said she didn't tell me because she was embarrassed about it. She thought I'd judge her for wanting to be an influencer instead of having a real job. She said she knew I valued stability and traditional career paths, and she didn't think I'd understand why she wanted to do something so different. But here's what really hurt. She said she'd been planning to tell me eventually, but she kept putting it off because she was enjoying having this separate part of her life that was just hers. She said she felt like she could be whoever she wanted to be in that world, without worrying about what I thought or what our families thought or what anyone from our regular life thought. I asked her about the hospital job story, and she said she'd panicked when the social media thing started taking up more and more of her time. She needed an excuse for why she was out so many nights, and healthcare seemed like something I'd respect and support without asking too many questions. The conversation lasted for hours. She told me about the money she'd been making, about the opportunities that were starting to come her way, about how she'd never felt more confident or excited about anything in her life. But she also kept apologizing and saying she knew she'd messed up by lying to me. Update 2. It's been 3 weeks since my last update, and I honestly don't know if I should laugh or cry about what's happened since then. Life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. After our big conversation, I thought we were going to work through this together. She promised to be completely honest with me going forward, and I said I wanted to understand her social media career better. We agreed she'd start including me in this part of her life instead of keeping it separate. For about a week, things seemed to be getting better. She showed me more of her content, explained how the whole Real Housewives parody thing worked, even introduced me to some of her collaborators over video calls. I started to see why she'd gotten so into it. It was actually pretty creative and entertaining. But then something happened that neither of us saw coming. One of her videos went viral. Not just popular within her usual audience, but actually viral. Like, millions of views, reposted on major social media accounts, talked about on entertainment news shows viral. It was this video where she was pretending to have a dramatic phone call with her assistant about scheduling her charity luncheon while getting her nails done. The whole thing was obviously fake and over the top, but it was hilarious. People were sharing it everywhere, making memes out of it, creating reaction videos. Suddenly, she went from having 50,000 followers to over 300,000 in just a few days. Brands started reaching out with much bigger sponsorship deals. She got invited to appear on podcasts and talk shows. A talent agency contacted her about representation. And that's when everything changed again. The attention and opportunities were bigger than anything she'd ever imagined. But they also came with a level of scrutiny she wasn't prepared for. People started digging into her background, trying to figure out who she really was. Some fans found our social media accounts and started connecting the dots. They figured out she was married, found photos of our house, even found out where we lived. At first, it seemed like it might be okay. Most of the attention was positive, and people seemed to think it was sweet that she had a normal life outside of her social media persona. But then some people started getting weird about it. There were comments on her posts asking why she never mentioned having a husband, accusations that she was trying to appear single to get more male followers, conspiracy theories about whether her marriage was real or just part of her act. Some people even started showing up at our house, wanting to take photos or ask questions. The worst part was when some gossip blog picked up the story and wrote this article about how she'd been deceiving her fans by not being transparent about her personal life. They painted her as this manipulative person who'd built her following on lies. Reading that article was like a punch to the gut, because even though I was still hurt about her lying to me, I could see how much the criticism was affecting her. She'd built this thing she was proud of, and now people were trying to tear it down. But here's where it gets really complicated. The negative attention actually made her more famous. The gossip and drama brought even more people to her content. Her follower count kept growing, and the opportunities kept getting bigger. She was offered a spot on an actual reality show, not just a parody one. A major streaming platform wanted to create a show around her and her group. Publishers reached out about book deals. She was making more money in a month than she'd ever made in a year at any previous job. And I realized something that I didn't want to admit. I was jealous. Not of the money or the fame, but of the fact that she'd found something she was genuinely passionate about and good at. I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt that excited about anything in my own life. We started having these conversations about what this meant for our future. She wanted to move to Los Angeles to pursue these opportunities. She wanted to rebrand herself and be more open about her personal life, which would mean including me in her content whether I wanted to be included or not. I wasn't sure I was ready for that. I'd never wanted to be a public person, and the idea of our relationship being part of her brand made me uncomfortable. But I also didn't want to hold her back from something that was making her so happy. Then, about 2 weeks ago, something happened that put everything into perspective. She got offered a role in a major movie. Not a big role, but a real part in a real Hollywood movie with actual famous actors. The director had seen her viral video and thought she'd be perfect for this character. The filming would take 3 months in New York. It was a legitimate career opportunity, the kind of thing that could change her life forever. But it would also mean being apart for 3 months while she figured out if this entertainment industry thing was something she wanted to pursue long-term. We talked about it for hours. I could see how much she wanted it, but I could also see how scared she was of what it might mean for us. She kept asking if I'd be okay with her being gone, if I'd be okay with her becoming more famous, if I'd be okay with our life changing so dramatically. And that's when I realized something important. I'd been so focused on the lying and the betrayal that I'd missed the bigger picture. She hadn't been lying to hurt me. She'd been lying because she was afraid I wouldn't support her dreams. And maybe, if I was being honest, she had good reason to be afraid. I thought about how I'd reacted to changes in the past, how I'd always been more comfortable with stability and predictability. I thought about how I'd never really encouraged her to take risks or pursue things that seemed unconventional. Maybe I'd created an environment where she felt like she had to hide parts of herself to keep me happy. Final update. I'm writing this from our apartment in New York. Yes, you read that right. I moved here with her. The movie thing happened, and it was incredible to watch. She was nervous at first, but once she got on set, it was like she'd found her calling. The director loved working with her, the other actors became her friends, and she was getting offers for other projects before filming even wrapped. But more importantly, seeing her in that environment made me realize something about myself. I'd been living such a small, predictable life that I'd forgotten what it felt like to be excited about possibilities. Watching her take these risks and chase these dreams reminded me that there's more to life than just being comfortable and safe. We had a lot of honest conversations during those 3 months. She apologized again for lying to me, but she also explained how she'd felt trapped in our old life. Not because of me specifically, but because she'd felt like she had to be a certain version of herself to fit into the life we'd built together. I apologized, too, for creating an environment where she felt like she couldn't be honest about her dreams. I realized I'd been so focused on what I thought a successful marriage should look like that I'd stopped paying attention to what would actually make us both happy. The crazy part is that once she started being completely honest about her career and including me in that part of her life, our relationship got so much better. I started appearing in some of her content, not as a major part of her brand, but just as myself. And people really responded to us as a couple. We got opportunities to work together on projects, which was something I'd never expected to enjoy. I also started pursuing some things I'd been putting off in my own life. Seeing her success gave me the confidence to take some risks of my own. I won't go into details, but let's just say I'm a lot happier with my career situation now than I was 6 months ago. The movie she was in comes out next month, and she's got 2 more projects lined up after that. We're talking about staying in New York permanently, which is something I never thought I'd want, but now I'm actually excited about. Looking back, I think the lying was wrong, but I also understand why it happened. Sometimes people lie not because they want to hurt you, but because they're afraid of disappointing you or losing you. That doesn't make it okay, but it makes it more complicated than just, she's a liar and I can't trust her. The truth is, we're both different people now than we were 6 months ago. She's more confident and honest about what she wants. I'm more open to change and more supportive of unconventional paths. We're building a life together that's based on who we actually are, not who we thought we were supposed to be. Would I recommend going through what we went through? Absolutely not. The lying and the betrayal and the confusion were awful. But sometimes the worst things lead to the best things, and I'm grateful for where we ended up. To anyone going through something similar, whether it's discovering lies in your relationship or feeling like you can't be honest about your dreams, my advice is to dig deeper than the surface problem. Ask yourself not just what went wrong, but why it went wrong. Ask yourself not just how to fix it, but how to build something better. And sometimes, the scariest changes lead to the most beautiful outcomes. The premiere is next week, and I'm nervous but excited to see her on the big screen. 6 months ago, I thought I was married to someone who worked at a hospital. Now I'm married to someone who's about to be in a major motion picture. Life is weird, but I wouldn't change how it turned out.